Good day, Chief here. Last video I said I was done with Berlin. Leaving Berlin. This relates to leaving Berlin. Due to somebody leaving out one of the digits of my service number, that's what we'll call it, my orders were delayed. I got my orders like on the 6th or 7th of December, and as I said, right away we made our arrangements to fly. Our flight was no longer there when we got to Munich, which was really odd. You know, we made these arrangements 2 weeks out. I don't understand that, but still got home. So as I said, we went to my parents' house in Denver, Colorado. We ended up buying a car. We had to drive down to Texas because my household goods that I had were at my brother's place in Texas, and at that time he was living in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. So we went down there, made arrangements for those to get picked up. We went through a little bit of it. She was curious to see what little stuff I had down there. No furniture. We went into this marriage with hardly anything because we lived in Berlin for over a year. So we get back to my parents' house, and then early January we get to Fort Riley, Kansas. Big Red 1, 1st Infantry Division. Childhood dream of mine, because Star Wars movie came out. I saw it like on the 2nd or 3rd day, and about a year or two later, I think it was, that Mark Hamill did the Big Red 1 with Lee Marvin, which was based on one of the characters in the movie. The character played by Carradine was based on the guy that wrote the movie, and if you ever can see the director's cut of the Big Red 1, well worth it, because they also got a lot of his commentary. Basically, it was his story, similar to the Band of Brothers, because the guy that wrote it was in that infantry squad in the 1st Infantry Division, the Big Red 1. Very good movie. So we get to Fort Riley, Kansas, and just like in Berlin, had their similar Head Start program, but I think this one only lasted a week. Basically, you know, you get your equipment issued to you, you turn in all your papers, you turn in all your documents, you go here, you go there to make sure all your records are in order and all that. And looking back on it, it's just so super funny. So at the end of the week, we're in our final brief, and it's like a Friday afternoon, I think it is, and they're like, okay, we've already notified your units. They should send representatives to come and collect you and take you back to your unit. Well, we walk out the back door of this theater, I think it's where it took place, and my spouse, she sees somebody that she knew in Berlin. I'm going to use his real name, Master Sergeant Tinley. One of the few master sergeants I actually worked with. And he was easygoing. He was older than me, which was odd. And he was just a character. He was a good guy. So he points at me and he says, "Yeah, I'm looking for you." My wife was a little disappointed because she knew him and she was hoping to go work with him, not knowing where he worked at. So I was going to go through to the S3 department of the Big Red 1. And he brought down a sergeant first class, who I got to know later on, and he was a Vietnam veteran. And I'll get to that later some other time about his story, his little bit story. So we're standing there talking. They're telling me where I got to report to and what to bring on Monday morning when I go back to report to the unit and start in processing there. Well, my spouse speaks up, "Well, where am I headed?" "You're going to Alpha Company." So we're like looking around. There's no representative for her company. So as we're saying this and doing some little chit chat, because they're reminiscing about Berlin, and I'm just basically just learning about these two individuals that I'm going to be working for. And this Humvee, it was a cargo Humvee. All the canvas was off, even off the doors, and even the frame for the back cover of the cargo Humvee was gone. So, and this is January in Kansas. It was sunny though at that point in time. It was a mild day, so understandable. And what what you would classify as a nerd or a geek was driving this vehicle. A lanky male, bespectacled, average looking. I mean, not to say anything bad against him, but I mean, he just didn't look like he belonged in the military, like a lot of MI soldiers did. You'd be surprised what some of us looked like, and you're like, and you're in the Army. So he pulls up, sees Master Sergeant Tinley and the rest of us standing there chit-chatting. So he comes over, and I think he asked for Sergeant Dennis. Dennis would be the male equivalent of my wife's name, so you can figure out what my wife's name is. She didn't get upset. She didn't lose her cool. And then I start chuckling. Master Sergeant starts chuckling. The E7 starts chuckling, and the soldier's like looking to each of us, and my wife says, "No, you're looking for me." And he says, "Okay," he says, "grab your stuff. I'm ready to take you back up to the company, and we're going to get you a barracks room." She looks at him and says, "I'm married." And he finally looks at name tapes and realizes, oh yeah, there are two of those people with that same last name here. And she says, "Where do I need to report on Monday?" So he tells her, and he drives off. While we were going through the week of in-processing collectively, we took a test. I think that was for your education, to see what level of education you had, because it was the only time I took that test, and I was surprised I didn't take it earlier. And then we also got issued the gray PT physical training uniform. So when I reported on Monday for PT in the proper attire, some people had the shorts, some people had the t-shirt. There was still a little bit of mismatch. Not that much, because I think that October was like the start for the purchasing date. Because as I said when I went to basic training, we did the brown t-shirt, we did the BDU pants, rolled it up, and then wore our athletic shoes, sneakers, running shoes, whatever you want to call them. That was my PT outfit. So when I got to the unit, and when everybody figured out I had the sweatpants, the sweat top, the t-shirt, and I had like 2 t-shirts and 2 pair of pants and 1 set of the sweats, everybody was like jealous. They're like, "Where'd you get that stuff? Because clothing sales is out of them." And I'm like, "Well, we got it issued to you." And they're like, "Well, why don't they issue it to the rest of us?" And I said, "I don't know." So a lot of people are upset that I got an issue and they didn't. So reporting to the Big Red One, I'm going to have lots of fun here. This is my first tactical assignment. As I said, everybody says, "Oh, you always hate your first assignment." Sorry, folks. Again, Berlin was my best assignment, and I really enjoyed myself there. And I left there a sergeant, but I went to a section. Like I said, I already got a master sergeant. I've got an E7 because I have a staff sergeant, or not a sergeant. Okay, now I'm forgetting my ranks. So I got an E8, an E7, no E6s, and the rest of us were E5s in the shop for a while. We will pick up some specialists later on. And I got a funny story to tell you about when some kid from Chicago shows up. So this is Chief, finally stateside for my first duty assignment, out in the middle of Kansas. And of course everybody made the joke, there's no place like home. And we would click our heels 3 times, and then we'd always go, "Damn, we're still in Kansas." Trying to get, no place like home, trying to get out of there. So I will start my duty as an S3 clerk. My first duty there was to do the SQT NCO, which is the skills qualification test that almost every MOS had one. Some MOSs didn't have it, and that became a controversy, and they had to drop the SQT test because some people were complaining, "Hey, I can't get 998 points because I don't have an SQT test that can get me 100 points. So that's why they dropped it. But then again, some of those guys are in low scoring fields anyway, but they still complained about it. So that was my first assignment. I will go on to do other things inside the shop. Some I couldn't stand, but my first experience in staff work, little did I know that when I became a warrant officer, staff work would just be more and more in my career the longer I served, and I got to enjoy it. Of course, as an officer, you got a little bit more privileges, and you can shove things down top to bottom. I may get it, but then down top to bottom. But that's later on in my career. So that's about all I got to say. Left Berlin, loved the assignment. Haven't been back to the city, even when I was in Germany a couple times later on. Just didn't get up to Berlin. I really would like to see Berlin again. I'd check Google every now and then. But this is Chief, as I say. Freedom is not free. Thank a vet. Elbow fist bump a vet. One of these days when you can hug the vet, give them a hug and thank them, especially the Vietnam vets. One of my class reunions, we had a bunch of students. Their husbands were Vietnam vets, and I thanked them. Even though I was in my uniform, I still thanked them for their service, because they all came up to me and they said, I was in Vietnam and I'm glad that you're serving. And I would turn around, even back then I would thank them for their service, because we all know that the Vietnam vets did not get the recognition that they properly deserve. And of course now it's too little too late for some of them. But like I said, freedom is not free. Thank a vet. Chief out.